tonight, folks. I'll be your host, Charles Scully, and let's get things started. Hello, and welcome back to this episode of Experts Debate. Today's research question, is manned space flight worth it, and should we continue it? Today we'll have two contestants who are experts on the subject. Our first, Lisa Hu, a NASA engineer at the nearby Ames Research Center. What will you be arguing today?
The space program should continue sending manned missions to space because the legacy has benefited society so far. Technology and science has improved during the space age, and much of society today came from space age ideals.
That's fantastic. And our second expert, Jessie Chen, is a professor at the University of the Pacific. And what will you be arguing today, Jessie?
Manned spaceflight in this day and age should be discontinued. Its legacy has ceased to be important. The technology made didn't require people, and the price is too much.
That's fantastic. Strong opinions make strong debate. You can quote me on that. Let's take a trip down memory lane back to the 1960s when the US had just won the so-called space race against communist Soviet Union. When the United States in Apollo 11 landed on the moon, it had huge political and socio-economic It had a huge impact on society. And enough from me, let's hear from one of our experts. Lisa, how did the space race affect politics in this day and age?
Space exploration continues to inspire a generation and perhaps other generations in the future to pursue careers in science and technology. Because of the successes in Apollo missions, the world became more passionate on science and technology. Fun fact, Earth's Day was started while the Apollo program was going on. This is also positive science since it means our society is progressing. Having more advanced technology means reduced inhuman effort and risk, because like with transportation, people can get around easier or use high-tech stoves to cook more safely. Encouraging more people to pursue careers in these fields will help make our society more advanced, securing the U.S.'s position as a superpower.
Do we really need to spend so much money in order to inspire people to take careers in science? In fact, 15% of the population in America is considered poor or stuck in poverty. Before we start focusing on space exploration, why don't we try to fix our problems on the ground first? Did you know that NASA spent around $2 billion on space investigation in 2005? With $2 billion, we can do far more than just inspire people to pursue careers in science and technology. We can actually save lives with $2 billion. With $2 billion, people can end 6.7% of the hunger in the U.S. and also use it on vaccinations. Furthermore, very few people are actually even inspired or wish to become astronauts when they were younger. Did you guys wish to become astronauts when you were younger? Yes, very little. Therefore, it is very ineffective to inspire people with this expensive idea.
Well, that's enough for politics, because as we all know, politics bores. But let's move on to a more interesting topic, technology.
Exploration has helped make great advances in technology during the Cold War and today. The space race had military implications. Technology created as a result of the space race spilled over into the military. Sputnik, the first satellite in space, was a hollowed-out ICBM, or intercontinental ballistic missile. Satellites were important back then and today, improving TV signals and phone calls. We also have things like artificial limbs now to help animals or people in need, or solar energy to generate faster solar power that don't contribute to pollution, or you name it. And all of these wouldn't be possible because of space exploration. In fact, the Soviets and Americans also tried to condense technology so they could make usable gadgets aboard the space shuttle, which lead to handheld gadgets that we have today. Many of these have been developed by the research from programs like NASA. Manned spaceflight has also helped create new markets that contribute to the growth of our economy. For example, after the World War II, Japan restored its economy with the help of the U.S. by selling needed technological products to areas over the world.
Solar power and artificial limbs have almost no connection with manned spaceflight. We do not need to fly people into outer space to obtain solar energy. On the other hand, manned spaceflight consumes a lot of lab time. We are already capable of experimenting on space shuttles instead of manned spaceflight. It is much more cheaper to do researches on zero gravity, vacuum, and etc. here on Earth.
Alright folks, so we've talked about the past and the present, now let's get down to the more interesting side of things, the future. Lisa, what do you think the fate of the manned space flight program is going to be like?
During the space program, the American public flipped out when they saw the Russians beat them into space with Sputnik. The Americans had to do something. JFK set the ambitious goal to go to the moon before the end of the 60s, so we pumped funds into NASA and emphasized education in math and science. An entire society was mobilized, and ever since, all manned spaceflight has benefited the world positively, so why stop?
Good question, Lisa. Jesse, what do you think?
Well, everything Lisa said is true. The only issue I have with that is that although there were elements of science and liberty, the entire idea behind the space race was that the superpowers wanted to prove that their societies were superior. This is good and all, but once the propaganda had succeeded, there was no point in continuing the space program and wasting all the taxpayer money. I mean, once you won the marathon, why would you keep running?
Well, I wouldn't run the marathon in general, but that is a good analogy, Jesse.
The space program has already proved that society takes inspiration by pushing the boundaries of the human experience. Pictures of Earth inspired an entire generation of environmentalists. The idea of a moonwalk inspired generations to become astronauts. And the videos of the control center in Houston celebrating the moon landing inspired a generation of scientists. Can you measure a child's dream with mere currency?
No, I will grant you that because I love beating the commies. But now that they're beaten, why not take the less expensive route and send unmanned spacecraft into space to do the same research any person could do for a smaller bill, faster and less chance of failure?
Planet Earth will run out of resources and we're going to have to turn to another option. And I'm no scientist, but as far as I'm concerned, when we were looking for a new planet to continue civilization, I don't think unmanned missions are going to do humans any good.
I'm getting messaging from our producer, Mr. Bell, that kids in the audience need to go to Reg. So we'll leave it with the final portion of our show, the Golden Compromise. Do you two think we could continue to have manned space flight if the funding was sourced to a third party, which would make the taxpayers not have to pay?
It doesn't matter where the money comes from as long as it's there. And with the average American taxpayer more happy, it makes for an even more enthusiasm about space exploration, which has proved key to the generations of the Cold War.
It worries me because it is so vague, but at the same time I recognize that if it is their money that they're entitled to allocate it to what they want, so I suppose I could incorporate more independent funding until it has proven sufficient.
For tonight, folks, give a special thanks for Lisa Hu and Jesse Chan for a special guest appearance. We'll be back next week on Experts Debate.